The day they came was like any other. Blue skies over Washington, D.C., people going about their business until every screen on Earth showed the same image. A massive ship hanging above the atmosphere, silent and waiting. Captain Ethan Powell stood at attention in the hastily prepared meeting room. His uniform was pressed perfectly, medals aligned with military precision. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Murray fidgeted with her data tablet, her eyes darting between her notes and the empty doorway. "Stop fidgeting," Powell whispered. "They're watching everything." "I know," she whispered back. "But these readings make no sense. Their ship shouldn't even be able to—" The doors slid open. 3 beings glided into the room. They were tall, with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. 6 eyes blinked independently on each face. The one in front wore elaborate decorations that caught the light. "Ambassador Zyrtak of the Galactic Concordat," announced a human translator. The alien stepped forward. When it spoke, the words came through a small device at its throat. "We greet the developing species of Earth," it said, voice flat and musical. "The Concordat has chosen to make your acquaintance." President Harris stepped forward, hand extended. "On behalf of humanity, we welcome you to Earth." The ambassador looked at the hand with all 6 eyes, making no move to take it. After an awkward moment, the president lowered his arm. "We have observed your kind for some time," continued Zyrtak. "Your progress from primitive tool use to basic space travel has been quicker than expected." Dr. Murray spoke up. "We've accomplished a great deal in a short time. We're particularly proud of our—" "Yes," interrupted the ambassador. "Proud. An emotional response typical of underdeveloped species." Captain Powell felt his jaw tighten but kept his face neutral. He had been warned this might not go well. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens explained that they represented over 30 advanced species who had formed the Concordat thousands of years ago. They controlled most of the galaxy. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's. They had mastered faster-than-light travel, gravity control, energy production beyond human understanding. "We have decided to offer limited technological exchange," Zyrtak stated. "Your species shows potential despite your savage tendencies." "Savage?" President Harris asked. "Your history is dominated by conflict. You still organize by primitive tribal structures you call nations. Your decisions are influenced by emotional reactions rather than logical analysis." The alien's skin rippled purple. "These are traits of a pre-civilized species." Admiral Vincent Carter, seated at the end of the table, leaned forward. "With respect, Ambassador, humanity has made great strides toward peace and cooperation." "Yes. We noticed you haven't had a global war in nearly 80 years. The alien's tone made it clear this was not impressive. "However, your entertainment glorifies violence. Your children play at war. Your resources go to weapons development. These are savage behaviors." The meeting ended with an agreement. The Concordat would establish a diplomatic outpost on the moon. Limited technology would be shared, medical advances, some agricultural improvements, nothing that could be weaponized. In return, Earth would provide cultural exchange and biological samples for study. The aliens seemed particularly interested in human DNA and brain patterns. As the delegation left, Captain Powell escorted them to their transport. "Your soldiers stand very still," observed one of the alien aides. "Yet your heartbeat is elevated, Captain." Powell kept his eyes forward. "Just doing my job, sir." "Curious. Your species masks biological responses. Deception is another primitive trait." Later that evening, Powell found Dr. Murray in her lab, surrounded by data screens. "Well, that was humiliating," he said, dropping into a chair. "They treated us like children." Murray didn't look up from her work. "Did you notice how they moved? Their muscle structure is different, more efficient in some ways, less in others. I noticed they think we're savages barely out of the trees." "That's what's interesting," she said, finally looking at him. "Their biology suggests evolution in a stable environment. Limited predators, consistent resources. They likely never developed our fight-or-flight responses or stress adaptations." Powell leaned forward. What are you saying? I'm saying we might be savage because we had to be. Earth is dangerous. We evolved to survive it. She pulled up an image of the alien's cellular structure. They've been at peace so long they may have lost something. Over the next 3 months, the diplomatic station on the moon was built. Captain Powell was assigned as the military liaison, much to his frustration. The aliens continued to treat humans with polite condescension. They shared some technology but kept the important advances to themselves. Human representatives were allowed limited access to concordant databases, but were constantly reminded they weren't ready for full membership in galactic society. One night, unable to sleep in the moon base's stiff beds, Powell went to the observation deck. To his surprise, Dr. Murray was already there, staring out at the stars. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. "I've been reviewing their medical data," she said. "Something's wrong. Their ships have weapon systems they told us weren't necessary in a peaceful galaxy, and I've noticed injuries consistent with combat." Powell nodded slowly. "I've seen military scouts taking scans of our defense systems. They say it's standard procedure, but they're hiding something," Murray finished. "Something big." Their conversation was interrupted by a junior officer rushing into the room. "Captain, Doctor, you need to see this." They followed him to the communications center. On the main screen was a feed from one of Earth's deep space telescopes. It showed a battle between massive ships near Jupiter's orbit. Energy weapons flashed in the darkness of space. "What are we seeing?" Powell asked. The communications officer looked pale. "Sir, one group is concordant ships. The others, we don't know. But they're fighting, and the concordant is losing." As they watched, a damaged ship broke away from the battle, limping toward Earth. "Get me Admiral Carter," Powell ordered. "And the President, tell them." He paused, watching as more ships appeared. "Tell them the concordant isn't being honest about how peaceful the galaxy is." Murray stepped closer to the screen. "They called us savages," she said quietly. "I wonder if they're about to find out. Why that might be an advantage." The damaged ship continued its desperate journey toward Earth, carrying with it the truth about the galaxy and the war that was about to reach humanity's doorstep. 6 months had passed since first contact. The damaged alien ship that fled the battle near Jupiter was now held in a secure facility beneath the Nevada desert. Commander Olivia Reyes stood before the vessel, its hull still showing scorch marks from energy weapons. "Any progress with the survivors?" she asked the guard. "Dr. Murray is with them now. They're talking more, but they're still scared." The guard led Reyes through a series of secure doors into a medical ward. Inside, Dr. Lisa Murray sat with 3 aliens. They were nothing like the concordant representatives. These beings had rough, ridge-covered skin in deep red tones. Their 4 eyes were set wide apart, giving them a near-complete field of vision. "Commander Reyes," Murray said, standing. "This is Ambassador Krelvos of the Drenari. He's feeling well enough to talk now." The alien turned all 4 eyes toward Reyes. "Your people saved us when you could have let us die. We are grateful." "We don't leave people to die in space," Reyes said simply, "even if they're not our people." The alien made a clicking sound that the translator didn't catch. "The concordant told us humans were simple savages, yet you show more honor than they have in centuries." Reyes pulled up a chair. "We need to understand what's happening. The concordant told us the galaxy was at peace." Krelvos straightened, wincing from his injuries. "The concordant has been at war with the Drenari Alliance for 20 of your years. They are losing badly." "Why didn't they tell us?" Murray asked. "Because they came to your world looking for cannon fodder," said the alien bluntly. "They assess developing worlds for military potential. Those with useful traits are drafted." Reyes felt cold anger building in her chest. "They were sizing us up." "Yes. The concordant believes in using specialized species for specific roles. Your kind has unusual aggression, adaptability, and pain tolerance, useful traits in soldiers." At the lunar diplomatic station, Daniel Wright was just finishing his maintenance shift when the alarms began to sound. Wright was a civilian contractor, hired to maintain life support systems. He wasn't supposed to be in secure areas, but the Flashing red lights and sudden movement of staff made him follow a group of officers into the command center. On the main screen was Ambassador Zyrtak, skin flashing angry colors. "The Drenari vessel must be surrendered immediately," the alien demanded. "Those are dangerous criminals who have committed atrocities against the Concordat." On the other half of the screen, President Harris stood firm. "The Drenari have requested asylum. They claim you're at war and didn't disclose this during our negotiations. Primitive species cannot understand galactic politics," Zyrtak said, dismissively. "The Drenari are manipulating you. They are the savage ones, not the Concordat." "We've heard enough to know you weren't honest with us," the president replied. "We will not turn over the Drenari until we've investigated their claims fully." Wright saw the ambassador's skin turn a deep blue he had never seen before. The alien spoke to someone off-screen in its native language. "This is your final warning," Zyrtak said. "Surrender the Drenari or face the consequences of defying the Concordat." The transmission cut off. Wright was about to leave when he noticed something on one of the security feeds. Concordat staff were rushing to their ships carrying equipment. Then the feed went dark. "Sir," one of the officers called out, "we've lost contact with the east sector." More screens went dark. Wright felt the station shudder. Colonel Frank Martinez burst into the command center. "They're attacking the station. Everyone to emergency positions." Wright knew he needed to warn Earth. He ran to the communications room, pushing past panicking staff. Inside, he found the regular operators gone. He had basic training on the systems from his contract work. It would have to be enough. He activated the emergency channel to Earth Command. "This is Daniel Wright at Lunar Diplomatic Station. We are under attack by Concordat forces. Repeat, Concordat forces are..." The door slid open behind him. A Concordat security officer stood there holding an energy weapon. Without hesitation, it fired. Wright dove under the console, the energy blast hitting the wall. He grabbed a heavy tool from his belt and threw it at the alien's head. The makeshift weapon connected with a satisfying thud, and the alien dropped. Hands shaking, Wright returned to the console. "Lunar station to Earth. Concordat is hostile. Station being overrun. Prepare for..." The room shook violently. Ceiling panels fell around him. Wright sent the message and ran for the emergency pods. Back on Earth, Captain Ethan Powell, now promoted to Major, watched the emergency transmission with Admiral Carter and the Joint Chiefs. "We lost contact with the station 5 minutes after that message," said the communications officer. "Satellites show Concordat ships have destroyed most of it." Powell's fists clenched. "What are our orders, sir?" Admiral Carter looked grim. "The President has authorized full military response. All forces worldwide are mobilizing." "With what?" "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours," said one of the generals. "Maybe not as far as we thought," said Dr. Murray, entering the room with Commander Reyes and a Drenari. "Ambassador Krell has offered to help." The red-skinned alien stepped forward. "My people have fought the Concordat for many years. We can share defense strategies, weaknesses in their systems." "Why would you help us?" asked Admiral Carter. "Because we've seen how you treat even strangers with compassion," replied Krell. "And because we need allies who can think differently than we do. The Concordat believes all species fight the same way. Humans don't." Powell looked at the tactical displays showing Concordat ships moving into Earth orbit. "How long until they attack the planet?" "They'll send an ultimatum first," said Krell. "It's their way. They believe in giving enemies a chance to surrender before destruction." As if on cue, every communication device on Earth activated simultaneously. "Ambassador." Zyrtak's face appeared on screens worldwide. "People of Earth, your leaders have chosen to shelter criminals and defy the Concordat. This is unacceptable. Surrender the Drenari and submit to Concordat authority, or we will demonstrate our power. You have 6 hours to comply." The transmission ended. The room was silent for a moment. 6 hours, said Powell. "That's how long we have to prepare for war." Dr. Murray looked at the Drenari ambassador. "Will they really attack a less advanced world?" "They've done it before," Krell said, solemnly. They see it as pest control. Admiral Carter stood up. Then we'll show them these pests have teeth. Major Powell, you'll coordinate with the Drenari on defense strategies. Commander Reyes, get your intelligence teams working on their communications. Dr. Murray, we need everything you can tell us about their biology and weaknesses. As everyone moved to their tasks, Powell looked out the window at the clear blue sky. Soon it would be filled with alien ships coming to destroy his world. All because humans were too savage to simply surrender. They think we're savages. He said quietly to no one in particular. Let's show them what that really means. The 6 hours passed too quickly. General Catherine Walsh stood in the Global Command Center, watching as red dots appeared on the tactical display. Concordate ships were entering Earth's atmosphere. All defense grids online, reported an officer. Fighter squadrons ready for launch. They're targeting military installations first, said another officer, just as the Drenari predicted. General Walsh nodded. They think they'll cut off our head in one strike. Let's show them humans don't work that way. Launch all squadrons. Major Samantha Lewis climbed into the cockpit of her fighter. It wasn't the same plane she had trained in for years. Dr. Howard Bennett and his team had worked nonstop to integrate Drenari technology. The controls were mostly familiar, but the weapons were new. Eagle Squadron, this is Eagle Leader, she said into her helmet mic. Remember your training. These aren't like any bogeys we've faced before. Stay in formation and watch each other's backs. Roger that, Eagle Leader, came the responses. Lewis took a deep breath and launched her fighter into the sky. 23 other planes followed her. They were heading straight toward a Concordate attack ship that was moving toward Washington, D.C. Eagle Squadron, weapons hot. Attack pattern Delta. The fighters broke into smaller groups, approaching the alien vessel from multiple angles. The Concordate ship was massive, easily the size of an aircraft carrier. Energy weapons began firing from its surface. Evasive maneuvers, Lewis called, rolling her fighter to avoid the blast. 2 of her pilots weren't fast enough. Their planes exploded in balls of fire. Eagle 3, Eagle 7, target their weapon ports with Drenari missiles, Lewis ordered, grief and anger mixing inside her. The fighters released their payloads. The missiles, built using Drenari specs, phased through the Concordate ship's shields and struck true. Explosions rippled along the alien vessel's side. Direct hits, shouted Eagle 3. Their port weapons are offline. The Concordate ship began to turn, trying to bring its functioning weapons to bear. Lewis saw her opening. All fighters, focus. Fire on the damaged section. Now. 20 fighters unleashed everything they had on the wounded alien ship. The Concordate vessel shuddered, then began to fall from the sky. Break off, it's going down, Lewis called, pulling up sharply. The Concordate ship crashed into an empty field outside the city, the impact shaking the ground for miles. Eagle Leader, to command. Target neutralized. In the command center, General Walsh allowed herself a small smile. First blood to us. Status on other engagements? The reports came in from around the world. The results were mixed. Some Concordate ships had been destroyed or damaged, but others had successfully hit their targets. Military bases in Europe and Asia were gone. The naval fleet in the Pacific had taken heavy losses. They're preparing for ground assault, said a tactical officer. Dropships detected launching from the larger vessels. Walsh turned to the communications officer. Get me Lieutenant Garcia. Lieutenant Joseph Garcia and his Marine squad were dug in near what was left of Andrews Air Force Base. They had the best ground weapons Dr. Bennett could provide on short notice, rifles modified with Drenari energy cells, and armor with limited shield capability. They're coming down about 2 miles east of your position, General Walsh told him over the comm. Do not let them establish a beachhead. Understood, General, Garcia replied. He turned to his squad. Lock and load. Remember, these aren't human enemies. They won't think like us. They won't move like us. And they won't die like us. Aim for the central body mass, just like the Drenari showed us. The first Concordate dropship landed in a cleared area near the base. The Marines watched through scopes as the hatch opened and alien soldiers emerged. They were tall, with 4 arms and body armor that shifted colors to match their surroundings. Hold, Garcia whispered. Let them get closer. The aliens moved with practiced precision, spreading out in a textbook formation. They clearly expected little resistance. Now, Garcia shouted. 40 Marines opened fire simultaneously. The modified rifles sent pulses of energy into the alien ranks. The first wave of Concordate soldiers fell, their adaptive armor useless against weapons of their own technology. But the aliens recovered quickly. They took cover and returned fire. Energy blasts hit the human positions, forcing the Marines to duck down. They're calling for backup, reported the squad's Drenari advisor, listening on a captured comm device. 2 more dropships inbound. Garcia knew they couldn't hold against 3 dropships worth of troops, but they had to try. Squad 2 and 3, fall back to secondary positions, he ordered. Squad 1, with me. We're going to flank them. Garcia led his team through the rubble of the base, circling behind the alien position. The Concordate soldiers were focused on the main human force, not expecting an attack from behind. Fire, Garcia ordered when they were in position. The surprise attack caught the aliens unprepared. Many fell immediately. The others turned to face the new threat, leaving themselves exposed to the main Marine force. Caught in the crossfire, the Concordate soldiers began to fall back toward their dropship. That was when Garcia saw his opportunity. "Jenkins, the ship," he shouted. Private Jenkins shouldered a rocket launcher, one of the few human weapons that had proven effective. He fired at the dropship's engines. The rocket hit its mark, and the ship exploded in a ball of blue flame. The remaining aliens, cut off from retreat, fought with renewed desperation. Garcia took a blast to his shoulder, the pain intense even through his armor. But he kept firing, kept moving. After 20 minutes of brutal combat, it was over. The Concordate force was destroyed, but Garcia had lost half his squad. "Lieutenant, Garcia to command," he said, wincing through the pain. "Area secured. Enemy dropship destroyed. Request medical evac for wounded." Across the planet, similar battles were playing out. Humans fought with desperate courage against superior technology. Sometimes they won, often they lost, but they never surrendered. In the research facility below Nevada, Dr. Bennett worked frantically to understand a captured Concordate battleship. The Drenari had helped them take it mostly intact, and it held secrets that could change the course of the war. "Look at this," he said to Dr. Murray, who had joined his team. "Their weapon systems are powerful but rigid. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations." Murray nodded. "Like their tactics. The Concordate has fought the same enemies the same way for centuries. They don't innovate." "But we do," said Bennett, eyes lighting up with an idea. "What if we could use their own ship against them?" Meanwhile, in orbit, Major Lewis led what remained of her squadron against a Concordate carrier. Half her pilots were gone, but the survivors fought with increasing skill. "They're learning," Ambassador Krelvos observed, watching the battle from the command center. "Your people adapt so quickly," General Walsh nodded grimly. "We've had lots of practice fighting wars. Maybe being savages has its advantages after all." 3 months into the war, Earth had changed. Cities lay in ruins, but human spirit remained unbroken. In the underground base that had once been the Nevada Research Facility, Dr. Ryan Miller put the final touches on the propulsion system of Earth's first true space warship. "Will it work?" asked Admiral Laura Chen, the woman chosen to lead humanity's counteroffensive. Miller wiped sweat from his forehead. "It's not elegant, but yes. We combined Concordate drive technology with our nuclear reactors. They'd never think to pair them because it's too dangerous by their standards." "And by our standards?" Chen asked. Miller smiled grimly. "Also too dangerous. But we're desperate, and desperate times call for human innovation." Across the hangar stood 5 ships, each the size of a destroyer. They had been built in secret underground facilities around the world, their components smuggled past Concordate patrols. They looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels. These were angular, armored, and bristling with weapons. A mix of modified, human technology and reversed-engineered alien systems. "The flagship is ready," Miller said. "We're calling her Defiance." Chen nodded in approval. "Appropriate. The other 4? We'll be ready within the week. Good. The Concordat thinks they've almost beaten us. They don't realize we're just getting started. Captain Gregory Hayes walked the corridors of the Defiance, inspecting every detail. He had been a Navy captain before the war. Now he commanded humanity's most advanced vessel. Engineering reports all systems green, said his executive officer. Weapons are online and targeting systems calibrated. Hayes nodded. And our special package? Secured in the cargo bay. Dr. Bennett says it's stable, but he used air quotes around the word stable, so take that as you will. Hayes smiled despite himself. Human humor persisted even now. What about our guest, he asked. Ambassador Krell Voss is settled in his quarters. He's eager to see his homeworld again. The plan was daring to the point of insanity. The 5 human ships would jump beyond the solar system using the modified drives, link up with what remained of the Drenari fleet, and strike at a key Concordat supply base. If they succeeded, it would be humanity's first step into the wider galactic war. In the communications center, Specialist Nicole Jackson worked tirelessly to decode the Concordat battle transmissions. The aliens had changed their encryption after realizing humans were listening, but Jackson was determined to break it again. There's a pattern here, she muttered to herself, staring at streams of alien text. They're too consistent, too predictable. That had been humanity's surprising advantage throughout the war. The Concordat, for all its advanced technology, was rigid in its thinking. Centuries of technological superiority had made them complacent. Got you, Jackson said suddenly, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The alien symbols began resolving into readable text. What she saw made her blood run cold. She grabbed her communicator. Specialist Jackson to Admiral Chen, emergency. Chen arrived minutes later. What is it, Specialist? Jackson pointed to her screen. The Concordat is planning a final strike. They're bringing in planet-killer weapons. 3 days from now, they'll hit every major population center simultaneously. Chen's face hardened. Then we launch tomorrow. Inform all ship captains. This is no longer just a counter-offensive. It's our only chance for survival. The next day, the underground hangar opened to the desert sky. The 5 human vessels rose on pillars of fire. Concordat patrols immediately moved to intercept them, but the Earthships were already accelerating beyond normal speeds. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Hayes watched as the blue sky darkened to black, dotted with stars. Approaching jump coordinates, reported the navigation officer. Drive system at 95% and holding. Hayes took a deep breath. No human had ever traveled faster than light before. Execute jump. The stars blurred, stretched, and then vanished as the Defiance and its sister ships tore through space in a way humans had only dreamed of. When they emerged, a red-orange planet hung before them. Drenari Prime. We made it, breathed Hayes. Ambassador Krell Voss stood beside him, all 4 eyes wide with emotion. My home. I feared I would never see it again. Contact the Drenari fleet, Hayes ordered. Tell them Earth has arrived. The response was immediate. A dozen Drenari warships moved to greet them, their commanders expressing shock and admiration that humans had mastered space travel so quickly. We have little time, Hayes told the Drenari commander. The Concordat is planning to destroy Earth in 3 days. We need to hit them first. The combined fleet set course for the Concordat supply base. It was heavily defended, but the presence of human ships was something the Concordat had not prepared for. Their battle computers had no data on human tactics or capabilities. They're scanning us, reported the sensor officer as they approached the base, but they seem confused. Their weapons aren't targeting properly. Hayes smiled. That's because Dr. Miller built our hulls with materials that scatter their targeting systems. Another savage innovation. The battle began. The human ships attacked, with unpredictable patterns, darting in and out like wolves among sheep. The Drenari, inspired by their new allies, abandoned their usual tactics and followed the humans' lead. The Concordat defenders, facing strategies their computers couldn't predict, fell into disarray. One by one, their ships were disabled or destroyed. Captain, called the weapons officer. The supply base's main hangar is exposed. We have a clear shot with Dr. Bennett's special package. Hayes nodded. Deploy it. From the Defiance's cargo bay launched what looked like a small shuttle. It flew straight into the Concordate hangar and detonated. But instead of an explosion, it released a specialized computer virus designed by humans to infiltrate Concordate systems. Across the enemy base, systems began to fail. Shields dropped. Weapons went offline. Communications died. All ships, this is Captain Hayes. Begin boarding operations. The human and Drenari forces stormed the crippled base. The fighting was fierce, but brief. Within hours, the largest Concordate supply base in the sector belonged to the Alliance. As human and Drenari soldiers secured the base, Admiral Chen received a priority message from Earth. Specialist Jackson has intercepted more Concordate communications, the message read. They're recalling their forces from Earth. The planet killer attack has been canceled. They're panicking, Admiral. They're afraid of what we'll do next. Chen looked at the Drenari commander. The Concordate has ruled through fear for too long. They don't know how to react when someone stands up to them. Especially someone they dismissed as savage, agreed the Drenari. Perhaps now they understand that being adaptable, being willing to fight for survival, these are not weaknesses but strengths. As the combined fleet prepared to return to Earth with their captured Concordate technology, Admiral Chen looked out at the stars. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that humanity might not just survive this war, but emerge from it as a power in the galaxy. We were savages once, she said quietly. Now, we're going to be saviors. 1 year had passed since the war reached Earth. The planet still showed scars of battle, but rebuilding had begun. President Julia Harrington stood at the window of the newly constructed Global Unity Tower in what remained of Geneva. Below her, representatives from all nations worked together in ways that would have seemed impossible before the invasion. Madam President, said her aide, they're ready for you. She nodded and straightened her jacket. In the grand meeting hall, delegates from Earth sat alongside representatives from 7 alien species. All had either defected from the Concordate or been subjugated by them before the war. Now they looked to Earth for leadership. Strange, she said quietly to Ambassador William Parker as they walked toward the hall. A year ago, we were the savages of the galaxy. Now they come to us for protection. Parker, once a diplomat to nations on Earth, now represented humanity to the stars. It turns out that what the Concordate saw as primitive was exactly what was needed to break their power. The meeting began with reports from the war fronts. The news was good. The Concordate, once seemingly invincible, was losing on multiple fronts. Their rigid tactics failed against the unpredictable human-led alliance. More importantly, their political structure was collapsing as subject species rebelled. Grand Admiral Ethan Powell, promoted from his original rank of captain, delivered the military briefing. His uniform now bore the scars and medals of dozens of space battles. The Concordate fleet is in retreat across all sectors, he reported. Their main defense line has fallen. We expect to reach their homeworld within the month. A murmur ran through the alien delegates. Many had believed this day would never come. And casualties? Asked the president. Powell's face remained professional, but his eyes showed the weight of command. Heavy on all sides. But our new medical technologies are saving many who would have been lost even weeks ago. Those technologies were largely thanks to Dr. Lisa Murray. Once a xenobiologist studying alien physiology, she now led the largest cross-species medical research program in known space. Her teams had developed treatments that worked across biological barriers, saving countless lives of all species. The Concordate has sent a message, Powell continued. They wish to discuss terms. The room fell silent. What kind of terms? Asked the Drenari representative, suspicion clear in all 4 eyes. Surrender, Powell said simply. Unconditional. The I-Do celebration that followed was restrained. Too many had died for wild displays of joy. But the relief was palpable. Later that day, in a private meeting room, President Harrington met with her inner circle. They want human negotiators, Ambassador Parker explained. Specifically asked for us to lead the peace process. Why? Asked General Walsh. They've spent the war calling us savages. Dr. Murray smiled slightly. Because we're unpredictable but fair. The other species respect us because we fight hard but treat prisoners well. We kill when necessary, but prefer to make peace when possible. The Concordat leadership believes other species would be too vengeful, added Ambassador Krelvos, who had become a permanent liaison to Earth. They fear the Drenari would exterminate them after centuries of war. Would you? President Harrington asked directly. Krelvos was silent for a moment. Before meeting humans? Perhaps. You've taught us there are better ways to end conflicts than extermination. 2 weeks later, the human flagship Defiance, now the command vessel of a vast Allied fleet, orbited the Concordat homeworld. The planet was beautiful, with gleaming cities and vast gardens visible even from space. It had been untouched by war for thousands of years. On the bridge, Grand Admiral Powell and Ambassador Parker prepared to transport to the surface for the surrender ceremony. Strange to think this all began with them looking down on us, Powell said, adjusting his formal uniform. Parker nodded. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt. We faced challenge after challenge on Earth. It prepared us for the stars in ways the Concordat couldn't understand. In the Great Hall of the Concordat Assembly, Powell and Parker stood before the High Council. Ambassador Zyrtak was among them, skin now a pale, defeated blue. The Concordat formally surrenders to the allied species, led by humanity, the High Counselor stated, voice translator flat and emotionless. We submit to your terms. The terms had been carefully crafted by Ambassador Parker and approved by all allied species. The Concordat would surrender its military. Member species would be free to leave. Reparations would be paid to damaged worlds. But there would be no executions, no revenge campaigns. We accept your surrender, Parker said formally. From this day forward, the Concordat as a ruling body is dissolved. A new Galactic Council will be formed, with equal representation for all sentient species. The ceremony concluded with the signing of the peace accords. As Powell and Parker turned to leave, Zyrtak approached them. I must know, the alien said, all 6 eyes focused on them. How did you defeat us? We had superior technology, centuries of experience. Powell looked at the alien who had once dismissed humans as savages. You had technology. We had determination. You had experience fighting enemies like yourselves. We had experience adapting to the unknown. But more than that, Parker added, you fought to conquer. We fought to survive. There's no stronger motivation in the universe. 6 months later, Dr. Lisa Murray stood in her new research center on the neutral planet chosen as the capital of the Galactic Council. Around her worked scientists from 23 species, including former Concordat worlds. Dr. Murray called one of her assistants, a young Drenari. The genetic analysis is complete. You were right. Murray studied the results on the screen. Her theory had been correct. Human DNA showed signs of rapid adaptation compared to other species. Earth's harsh and changing environment had created a species that could evolve quickly, think creatively, and endure tremendous hardship. Send this to the Council, she said. They need to understand that biological diversity is strength, not weakness. In the newly formed Galactic Council chambers, representatives from 42 species debated the future. Ambassador Parker, now serving as Earth's permanent representative, listened as former enemies worked together. A former Concordat species, speaking through a translator, addressed the chamber. For too long, we believed uniformity was strength. We were wrong. The humans have shown us that differences, what we once called savage traits, create resilience. We need all our diverse perspectives to face the future. Parker caught the eye of Krelvos across the chamber. The Drenari gave the human equivalent of a smile. Their species had been at war for generations, but now worked side by side with former Concordat members. That evening, Parker joined Grand Admiral Powell on the observation deck overlooking the capital city. Ships from dozens of worlds moved through the skies. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Powell asked. "When they first called us savages." Parker shook his head. "Never. But maybe that's our gift to the galaxy. Humans never just accept what seems impossible." "The savages became the teachers," Powell said, watching the stars. "Not savages," Parker corrected. "Just human, with all our flaws and strengths." It turns out that's exactly what the galaxy needed. Below them, the lights of the city glowed like earthbound stars. Different species walking together in peace. A peace forged by the species once dismissed as too primitive to join galactic society.